So today I'm going to talk about this question. This is kind of an interesting question, whether willpower is actually important in becoming free and stopping ourselves from doing these body focused repetitive behaviors like skin picking, hair pulling, nail biting, all those kinds of things. And we're going to actually talk about this because the central question is, I mean, first of all, we think that willpower, before we learn how to break free of these things, we think that we use willpower exclusively, right? We try and try and try to stop these behaviors. And willpower is never going to be the answer in that way. And yet, I'm going to explain to you that it is really important in another way. Cool. So, I'm going to be continuing to talk about this book I've talked about for a few scopes now. This is called The Power of Habit. And it's just giving me a lot of ideas or looking at things in a new way, and also a lot of confirmation for what I already do, how that's already, effective, and why it's effective, a little bit more of a different way of thinking about things than I have been. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Annette Pasternak. I'm the author of Skin Picking, The Freedom to Finally Stop, which I don't have right here to hold up today, but it's got a pretty blue sky with a bird cage and a couple feathers because the bird has become free. Okay, so I help people as a holistic health coach. I help people become free of skin picking and these related type behaviors called body focused repetitive behaviors. So things like nail biting and hair pulling are a few of the other ones. So again, the topic today is whether willpower is important. And I'll just repeat what I started with briefly because most people hadn't gotten on yet, is that, most of us start trying to stop by willpower, right? By willpower alone. And so first of all, that's never going to be the answer in that way, if you look at willpower, at it being exclusively that way. But I'm going to make the case that willpower is very important in other ways, because there's a lot of positive steps that you're going to need to take to be able to become free of these behaviors. And so the willpower is very important for you to put those behaviors into place. And I've learned a lot of interesting things about willpower in one of the chapters in this book. So I want to share some of that with you. So this is a direct quote from the book. They say that dozens of studies show that willpower is the single most important keystone habit for individual success. Okay, now they're not talking specifically about skin picking or these other behaviors, but they're talking about a wide range of success. I just wave the paper in front of my face, sorry. Talk about a lot of different types of behaviors. When they're talking about keystone habits, I think I mentioned this the last scope I did. Thanks for the hearts. I love the purple ones. So they talk about keystone habits as being like the thing that turns the key to other good habits in place. So the example I think I mentioned last time was the weight loss one. Oh yeah, it was when people kept a food journal. They started making other good habits. It was like just keeping a food journal once a week. That's all they were told to do. But they ended up changing the way they eat. They ended up, even some of them, exercising or setting a lot of habits into place. A lot, stopping smoking or whatever. So these are examples of keystone habits, something that will change. Like if you set up a habit of willpower, if you develop willpower, that will improve all the different aspects of your life. You'll end up having better habits all around. And for example, there was a program they were talking about in this book, a program focused on creating study habits in, I can't remember if it's a high school or what, but creating study habits and I think it was high school, and that spilled over. You know, they didn't talk about other things. They just taught the kids how to have better study habits, which utilize their willpower, right? And into, you know, you have to sit down and study. You have to use a certain amount of willpower to do that. They just found that those study habits spilled over into less smoking, less drinking, less TV watching, more exercise, more healthy eating. So this is like willpower is really like a keystone habit. When you develop willpower in one area of your life, it's going to spill over. Okay. Oh, good. There's some other colors getting into that heart action there. Thank you so much. All right. So, this is interesting. Have you guys heard of the famous marshmallow experiment? It was kind of the first study on willpower, probably, or the first one that's mentioned anytime nowadays. And it was way back in the 60s. And they gave 4-year-olds a marshmallow. They stuck a 4-year-old in a room with a marshmallow. And they said, you know, you could eat this marshmallow now, but if we come back, if you sit there and we come back in, I don't remember what it was, like 10 minutes or something. I do have it marked, but then we'll give you 2 marshmallows. Like if you don't eat the one, you can get 2 if you can wait, right? If you can have the willpower or the self-regulation, they call it, to wait. Yeah, it was 15 minutes. So some kids gave in to the temptation to eat just the 1 marshmallow, and some kids waited the 15 minutes and they got the 2 marshmallows. And they actually followed these kids all throughout, you know, school. And so they found that in high school, the ones that waited for the second marshmallow, they had higher grades. They had more friends. Where was the, yeah, they were able to maintain friends. They had higher SAT scores. They were better able to cope with problems, etc. So yeah, and then they also began to do experiments on whether this was teachable, you know, whether they could teach the kids to wait for the second marshmallow better. And by teaching them little tricks, distracting themselves with drawing. Does that sound familiar? Because drawing can be a great way of keeping your hand busy and distracting you from urges to pick or pull. We had a talk, I don't know if anyone tuned into the Scope on Monday, but I went to a fabulous talk by Liz Atkin. She's an artist from the UK who was here in Los Angeles. Actually, she's still here. But she gave a talk about her art and how she is like almost obsessive with drawing now, with charcoal drawing. And you know, she's grasping the charcoal and just drawing, and it was very interesting. But I don't know how I kind of digressed, I guess, away from the willpower. But anyhow, yeah, oh, right, that was a good way to distract the kids from the, to make them better able to wait for the marshmallow. And it's also a way to delay ourselves from doing the picking or pulling or biting behaviors. Maybe not biting as much, except if it's your nails, because you're keeping your hands busy. If you're biting your lip or something, you got to do something else. All right. Okay, so what else do I want to say? All right, so then they go on. So the willpower wasn't studied for a while after that until I think a couple decades later. It's gotten really popular nowadays because they're learning so much about it and how teachable it is and how important it is. And basically, what other thing that was interesting is that about 200 studies have shown that willpower is like a muscle. And it's like a muscle in 2 important ways. So first, it gets tired. By the end of the day, you've run out of willpower if you've been using it. If you've been doing hard work, you know, that takes willpower or especially discipline yourself, you know, or you've already made yourself, you know, exercise, or if it's not a habit, it takes some willpower, all these things. Or if you've used your willpower in not picking, right, or not pulling, by the end of the day, you might run out of willpower because it's like your muscle has gotten tired. It's reached the point of exhaustion if you've been using the willpower all day. And how many people can relate to that? I know a lot of people can relate to like, all right, they're doing really well all day, and then by the evening, they don't have any more willpower to keep themselves from picking. Okay, so that's some hearts there. I assume that is so common. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for sending those. So anyhow, yeah, so willpower is like a muscle in the first way that it gets tired. And the nice thing is it's also like a muscle in that we can strengthen it. Okay, by using it more, we can strengthen it. Strong times, but all of a sudden it's dead and your picking will explode. Yeah, exactly. So that could be what's going on. If it's like later in the day or where you've already used a lot of willpower that day on either preventing yourself from picking or some other things, that could be it. Oh, yeah, so you can strengthen it. And the good thing is you can strengthen it in one area. Yep. Not enough sleep, less willpower, more picking or pulling or biting. Yeah, it's so common. Um, so yeah, you can strengthen it and it'll spill over into other areas of your life. So do something that continually develops your willpower, you know? Use your willpower so you make good habits. Then when one thing is a habit, it doesn't take any more energy or willpower or very little to keep doing it. You know, let's say you put an exercise habit into place. And then, you know, don't just give up on your willpower. Continue to strengthen it with other positive habits. Like what else would be good for you to do? Start a meditation habit, for example. And when you just continually work on your willpower, you will build it up and you'll be able to do more and more. You know, it wasn't always easy for me to discipline myself to work on, you know, I'm self-employed, right? So, I mean, yeah, the motivation to pay my bills is important and that's there, but it's still, you know, it still sometimes can be difficult to discipline yourself to have the willpower, but I built up the willpower thing by thing. I'm still, trust me, I'm still a big work in progress, but you know, this is the way to do it. So again, to recap, like willpower, alone is not going to be a good method to stop picking. Building up your willpower so you'll be better at, actually, I mean, some of the ways you can build up your willpower is just the things that you need to do to stop picking as well. Of course, the things that I said help, like exercise and meditation, do really have a positive effect for you there. Yeah, so all those things that you want to discipline yourself to do, like always have something on hand to keep your hands busy in some other way.